Hi everyone, it is tea time with the diva. Grab your tea, grab your coffee, because we're going to get into it. This tea time is dedicated to Diddy and the questions that the potential jurors are being asked to see if they are going to be one of the 12 jurors or the six alternates. Okay, I didn't realize that they picked six alternates. That is why it's interesting following this case because I'm learning a lot in general. So let me go ahead and share screen because we're going to get right into it. So jury pool in Sean Diddy Combs trial will be asked three questions by judge during voir dire. The jury selection is expected to take several days with the goal of finding 12 impartial jurors and six alternates for the trial, which is expected to go well into the summer. On the first day of Sean Diddy Combs trial on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges, 12 jurors are being selected to hear the case against the rap mogul in his defense, and a process known as voir dire to speak the truth. Judge Iran is asking a set of questions submitted from both sides of prospective jurors at the Daniel Patrick Courthouse in Lower Manhattan this week, and it started yesterday. One by one, jurors are being asked questions by the judge as the pool is gradually whittled down to 45 potentials who can then be dismissed by the defense or the prosecution with no reason given. These include whether they had heard news about allegations against the hip hop mogul, seen the CNN video of Combs assaulting a woman in a hotel hallway, or even heard any of the baby oil jokes after feds raided his homes and removed evidence. One potential juror said he had. Another potential juror was dismissed Monday by the judge when she indicated that an image of Cole standing above a woman on the floor could be damning evidence. However, another remained when she said she seen a clip of the incident but told the judge she'll be a blank slate going into the trial, according to reporting from inside the courtroom from MSN. Here's a look at what the defense sought to ask potential jurors, followed by what the prosecution sought that the judge ask the jury pool as he selects 12 men and women and six alternates. Pursuant to the court scheduling order, the defense's proposed voir dire questions on behalf of defendant Sean Combs are listed below. What is your age? I guess they want to, if I had to take a guess, I don't know if they would want older jurors so that maybe they live long enough and they have an understanding that, in life you may do XYZ when you're younger, but as you grow older, you should change. I don't know if that will work in his favor or not. What is your sex? I guess because nowadays you got to ask that question because you just don't know. What is your gender identity? I think that gender neutral people would probably be good for the defense side because they may have a better understanding of, who Diddy is and why, he does what he does. And I'm not saying, because right now we can't say, oh, it's innocent to prove guilty, right? But I'm saying right now that he's claiming he was just a swinger, right? He's saying he did not do anything he's been accused of. So maybe if you have gender neutral people, they will understand that love is love, I guess. In what city and county do you live? Maybe because in certain areas, this story has been really more like out there in the news. I'm not sure, but I feel like it's been everywhere. But maybe that's why they have that question. Or maybe because, but that's crazy because, right, you can't get called into the jury pool if you don't live within that district of that courthouse. So that's an interesting question. Who, if anyone, do you live with? Because they're not being sequestered. They want to make sure, like, who lives there so they know how many people you can potentially be going home to talk about this story too, or this case. If you are married or in a relationship, what is your spouse or partner's occupation and employer? How long have you worked for the employer or been in that occupation? What are their job responsibilities? I guess because they certain jobs or certain things, they may have a greater connection to this story. I don't know. Do you have children? If so, what are their ages? If you have adult children, what if you have adult children, what, if anything, do they work? Do they do for work? So they're asking all the good family business. Okay, they need to find out if anybody you are connected to may have a connection to him directly or indirectly that could impact your judgment as a juror. Are you currently working? Because this case is going to be a minute now. They want to know, like, what's going to happen with your job. Who is your current or most recent employee, and what is your job title? If not, when was the last time you worked? And please describe your most recent employment. What were your specific duties at your job? Maybe they're trying to think about your thought process too, by asking about your work and your previous work and things like that. If you are working, what do you do for a living? What are your specific duties at your job? How would you describe your job responsibilities? Do you manage or supervise others as part of your job? Because Diddy has previous employees that said they wasn't treated well, wasn't paid. So I get where they're going with these questions. What is the highest level of education you have completed? And if you have any college or postgraduate degrees, what was your degree or area of study? Okay, that's important, I guess. I'm going to read you a list of occupational areas. Please tell me if you are someone you are very close to has any training, experience, or specialized knowledge in that area, and explain your/their experience. Business. Well, that's general. They almost call everything business, right? Sexual assault training, sexual harassment training, domestic violence training, case psychiatry or psychology, security services, addiction treatment or counseling, finance, law or law enforcement. I think because all of those particular things are things that are going to come up in the trial. Oh, this is interesting, these questions. What clubs, groups, or organizations do you belong to or regularly participate in? For example, church groups, professional organizations, volunteer activities, victim right groups. If you have a spouse or a partner, what clubs, groups, or organization does your spouse or partner belong to or regularly participate in? Well, good anymore. This is not only questions, this is a lesson in, like, dang, how well do I know my spouse or my family or my people or the person I'm living with? This is a lot. Can you even answer that about your spouse or significant other? What do you do in your free time? What are your hobbies or interests outside of work and family? Do you use social media platforms? If yes, which ones? Because they're probably going to go dig up in your social media platforms too. How do you get your news? Okay, do you get off of YouTube? Do you read? What, if any, newspapers, magazines, websites, online news services, or publications do you read most often? Do you listen to any podcasts? Because these podcasts out here been roasting Diddy. Okay, the podcast has cooked him. So they want to know, so which ones? Because if you've been listening to one that has heavily kept up with the case, maybe they're going to be like, nah, I got to dismiss this person. I'm going to read 3 group decision-making styles, and I'd like you to tell me which one comes closest to the way you make decisions. Oh, these are good questions. Strongly express your views to get the outcome you believe is best. Participate in the discussion and try to help build a consensus. Listen and follow what you think the majority favors, okay? So they want to know if you're going to go, like, maybe you're feeling like Diddy is not guilty, but the rest of the people are feeling he's guilty. Well, you just go ahead and give in and get into the greater good, okay? Or are you going to put your foot down and be that one juror that have your ends sequestered for days trying to come up with a verdict? Okay. Do you believe you make most decisions based on intuition or examination of the facts? That matters, right? Do you have any personal experience or opinions about drug or alcohol use or addiction? If yes, what is that experience? You are going to hear about drug and illegal alcohol use in this trial. Is that going to be difficult for you based upon your experience? The defendant in the case is a wealthy celebrity. Do you have any opinions regarding wealthy individuals that would affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror in this case? Do you believe that wealthy people get away with things that the less wealthy do not? What kind of music do you listen to? How often do you listen to music? Do you have an opinion about the hip hop rap music industry or artists in that genre? If so, please tell us what it is. So here are his charges, the criminal case. To help you understand the reason for the questions I'll be asking you, I want to tell you briefly about the charges. The defendant, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, has been charged with the commission of certain federal crimes in a document called an indictment filed by a grand jury sitting in this district. The indictment is not evidence itself. It simply contains the charges that the government is required to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. See, that's the part right there. This beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm curious to see if they're going to be able to prove this thing beyond a reasonable doubt, especially when victim number 3 is going ghost. It's like, I'm not testifying. I don't care if I was subpoenaed. I will briefly summarize the charges in this case in order to give you a legal framework as you listen to the evidence for what you will ultimately be asked to do at the end of the trial. The indictment contains 5 counts or charges. Count 1 charges that from at least in or about 2004 through or about 2024, the defendant participated in a racketeering conspiracy during which he agreed with other employees and associates of his businesses to commit kidnapping, arson, bribery of a witness, obstruction of justice, drug distribution, forced labor, sex trafficking, and transportation for the purposes of engaging in prostitution. The problem I have is why was nobody else charged? Well, right there, you're saying racketeering with his employees and other business associates. Other people need to be charged. If they gave a multiple amount of people immunity, that's messy. We're going to see how this thing goes down. Count 2 charges. The defendant was sex trafficking an adult female victim through force, fraud, and coercion between in and about 2009 in or about 2018. That's Cassie. Count 3 charges the defendant with transporting that female victim and male commercial sex workers to engage in prostitution between in about 2009 in or in about 2018. Again, that's Cassie. Count 4 charges the defendant with sex trafficking a second adult female through force, fraud, and coercion between in and about 2021 and in and about 2024. Now, this is my guess. Don't know who this is, but the only person I can think of that was with him between that time is Young Miami. This is going to be interesting. We shall see. Count 5 charges the defendant with transporting that second victim and male commercial workers to engage in prostitution between in and about 2021 in or about 2024. General ability to serve. 1, would you have any difficulty following my instructions with respect to the fundamental principles I have just outlined? Do you have any personal knowledge of charges in the indictment as I have just described them beyond what you have already noted in your questionnaire? It is not a particularly present duty to find another individual guilty of committing a crime. If the evidence established a defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, would you be willing to share? Unable to render a guilty verdict for reasons unrelated to the law and the evidence. And if the evidence failed to establish a defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, would you be unable to render a not guilty verdict for reasons unrelated to the law and the evidence? If there's any reason you cannot view and decide fairly and impartially in a case involving the charges as I have described in that you have not already noted in your questionnaire. Knowledge of trial participants. As noted in your questionnaire, the defendant, Sean Combs, is represented by Mark, Tenney, Anna, good God, he got a whole team here, Alexander, Shapiro, Jason, and Brian Still. They will be assisted by the list here. Please ask them to stand. Seeing them here today, do you know any of these individuals? Similarly, as noted in your questionnaire, the prosecution referred here as the government is represented here as in all cases where it is a party before the court by the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, J. Clayton. The conduct of the trial will be in immediate charge of Assistant United States Attorneys Maureen, Meredith, Christy, Madison, Mitzi. They will be assisted by Homeland Security, right? I think that is HSI, Special Agent Sean Quinn, HSI Special Agent Kiara Murphy, and HSI Task Force Officer Phil, as well as Shannon Becker and Lucy Gavin and Chanel Foster, paralegal specialists in the United States Attorney's Office. Please ask them to stand. Seeing them here today, do you know any of these individuals? Are you familiar with anyone else present in the courtroom, including all court personnel and myself? Do you recognize any of your fellow jurors in the jury assembly room? I will now hand you a list of names of individuals who may be mentioned during the trial or may be witnesses in this case. Please read this list to yourself, and please do not say any of the names out loud. Numbered list of names to be supplied, including the true names of victims testifying under a pseudonym. Please answer the following questions referring only to the number next to the relevant name without saying any name out loud. Do any of you know any of the people on that list personally? Have you had any dealings directly or indirectly with any of these individuals? To your knowledge, have any of your relatives, friends, or associates had any dealings with any of these individuals? This is intense. Knowledge of locations. Do you have any familiarity with any of the following places that may be mentioned during the course of the trial? The government gave them a list, which of course they're not going to reveal to us. Relationship with and views regarding government and defense. Have you ever studied practice law or worked in any capacity for a law office? Have you or had a relative or close friend work for or with any federal, state, or local law enforcement agency, such as the United States Attorney Generals for the Southern District of New York, or the Department of Homeland Security, Homeland Security Investigations, or the New York City Police Department, NYPD, in any capacity, including as a contractor? Have you or has a relative or close friend done work for or been associated with a criminal defense lawyer or private investigator? Have you ever been involved, or do you expect to become involved in any legal action or dispute with the United States or in any agency, officer, or employee of the United States? Do you have any views about the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, HSI, or the NYPD, or any law enforcement agency that would interfere with your ability to be fair or impartial? Do you have any views about criminal defense attorneys that would interfere with your ability to be fair and impartial? Experience with and opinions of legal procedures and relevant topics. Have you or has any relative or close friend ever participated in a state or federal case, whether criminal or civil, as a witness, plaintiff, or defendant? If so, what kind of case? If so, what was your role in that case? If so, is there anything about the experience that would prevent you from acting as a fair and impartial juror in this case? Have you or any relative or close friend ever been involved or appeared as a witness or in any investigation by the federal or state grand jury or by a congressional or state legislative committee, licensing authority, or governmental agency, or being questioned in any matter by federal, state, or local form law enforcement agency? If so, if there's anything about that experience that will prevent you from acting as a fair and impartial juror in this case? Have you or has any relative or close friend ever been subpoenaed for any inquiry or investigation? If so, is there anything about that experience that will prevent you from acting as a fair and impartial juror in this case? Have you or any of your relatives or close friends ever been a victim of a crime? If yes, please describe the circumstances, including the type of crime, when it happened, and the outcome of any law enforcement action. Is there anything about the experience that could affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case? You may hear evidence in the case related to acts of violence, including intimate partner violence and other assaults. Do you have any feelings, beliefs, or experiences related to that aspects of the case that could affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case? You may hear evidence in this case related to SA, including R. Do you have any feelings, beliefs, or experiences related to that aspects of the case that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case? You may hear evidence in the case related to the payment of commercial workers in exchange for sex. Do you have any feelings, beliefs, or experience related to prostitution and the enforcement of laws around prostitution that could affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case? Ooh, these questions. The government notes that this question may be omitted depending on the outcome of pending motion practices. You may hear evidence related to firearms. Do you have any feelings, beliefs, or experiences about guns and the enforcement of gun laws that could affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case? Ooh, child, listen. He got nervous during jury selection. I understand that this is a lot. And I also understand that, you know, his life is dependent upon the outcome of this case. He got himself into this. And for Diddy's sake, he better pray his lawyers can get him out. But for the prosecution, they better pray they could present this thing and there is no reasonable doubt. Remember, the burden is on them. All the defense has to do is put in enough reasonable doubt to make the people say not guilty. The prosecution has to make sure they lay everything on the table. And right now, victim 3 is not cooperating. Listen, guys, chat with me in the comments, and when I get opportunity, I will chat back. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. Everybody, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video. Could you, before I go, with these questions that were asked or being asked of the jurors, do you think now still you can be a potential juror with the questions that they are asking? Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. And wait, and also, do you think you would be able to answer everything that your spouse does and does not do? Listen, it's a lot. Thank you, guys. I'll see you on the next video.